when I was living in Nigeria, identity, belonging, bond, or root was not something I questioned because it's embedded in me. It's embedded in the language, it's embedded in the interactions that I have with people. The movement or distance sort of brought more awareness to the presence or the absence of the root in a way. So it brought more awareness to the way that I look at bond or to the way that I interact with memory, and that sort of informs the way I paint now.
So today we are in Paris for your new show, Buried Roots Up in the Air. But it's not your first time in Paris.
No.
Last time you showed your work also here. Can you tell us what happened ever since?
It's been 3 years because the last show was in 2023. And yeah, a lot has happened in the last 3 years, a lot of experiences. I've grown as a person. Even in my practice as an artist, there has been a significant change. And, within that period, I moved to the Netherlands. I was at the Rijks Academy for 2 years. And, I had a lot of time in the studio. So as a person, there's been a lot of changes. And as an artist, it has not been the same.
There is a lot of maturity actually in your work. We can almost feel like time passing when we look at them. Do you remember what was your first attraction to art? What drew you to begin to paint and say, okay, I'm going to explore this path?
It wasn't a singular moment. It's not like there was a specific happening where I was like, I want to be an artist, but it was a accumulation of different experiences. As a child, when I was, I think, 6 or 7 years, when I got into my junior secondary school, we would have fine art classes. And then, our fine art teacher would take us through the history of Nigerian art from the 1950s, the Zaria Art Society, the likes of Gruson Obrakweya, Uche Okeke, and all these that, were like the pioneers of the modernism in Africa, Nigerian art. Those were like the earlier days where I was subconsciously taking in art. And then when I got to the uni, I started drawing. I was working a lot with charcoal on paper, on canvas. But then I had a friend who was studying fine art, painting in the uni also. And he told me, why don't you start painting? And for me, painting was quite a difficult thing. And then he introduced me to a book on color by Betty Edwards. And I actually read the book overnight. I was so eager to learn, and I was watching also YouTube videos on how to mix colors, how to work with the material. I tell people, I think art chose me rather than me deciding to be an artist.
If we just look at the themes that you explore now, they are like very centered around people, intimacy, and where your very first actually visual expressions aligning to those stories, or is it something that also had to evolve with time?
When I moved to the Netherlands, I started having answers to questions I never knew existed. Why do I always paint friends and family? Because when I got to the Netherlands, I took my camera to a part of Amsterdam where I was told there's a lot of Africans, Nigerians, Ghanaians, and I took a lot of pictures, but I couldn't paint any one of those pictures. And it sort of gave me an answer to a question I never knew existed in my practice, which was intimacy was like the core of my practice. The people I paint, I've shared memories with them, I've shared experiences with them. I sort of grew with these people. So in a way, I see myself through them. So my representation of them and, the concept or like the story behind them, it's almost like it's the same. Like I would tell people, every painting is a reflection of me. I think the painting is an ongoing reconstruction in a way that each painting contains different moments in time. Because when you look at the painting, there's a painting and a painting. It's almost like an unfolding of different times where it's continuous. It's never a static thing.
Buried Roots Up in the Air. That's a curious title. Why are they buried? Is it a question? Is it an affirmation? Is it how you feel about your roots? What's the story behind that name?
Buried root you know, like roots generally, we believe it's something that has to be buried beneath. You know, it's something that has to be, you know, permanent in a certain space, something that is stable, or, you know, firmly connected to a certain space. But I'm looking beyond that. You know, we are people, we have our roots from some places. And when people move across different environments, different cultures, you know, these roots, it's no longer permanent. It travels with them. So for me, buried roots, as the phrase, buried roots up in the air, it signifies the concept or the idea of carrying one's history with them through different location. And as you can see in the painting in the show, the painting sort of like, it establishes that tension between your root or a place you've called a permanent place and, you know, movement. When I was living in Nigeria, identity, belonging, bond, or root was not something I questioned because it's embedded in me. You know, it's embedded in the language, it's embedded in the interactions that I have with people. But you know, the movement or distance sort of brought more awareness to the presence or the absence of the root.
And what is home to you right now?
Home now is no longer a geographical place. I think home for me is now about emotion and psychological proximity. I was on a train back to Amsterdam from Rotterdam. No, I was texting. I texted someone. I said, I'm going home. You know, and then when I read that, I was like, home? And then I thought of Nigeria again, because I haven't been to Nigeria then in like a year. And then I thought of Nigeria again. Nigeria is also home. And now I started thinking to myself, I'm calling two different places home, you know, and I'm right in between these two spaces. So the idea of, you know, home, of memory, of intimacy started from that thought of home. And so during my second year at the Rijks Academy, I started building on that thought, on that idea. And, you know, it started progressing and it brought us to buried roots up in the air.
Yeah, it must be interesting to actually see people reacting and connecting to it for different reasons and just finding, you know, other interpretation that maybe you didn't even talk about.
Yeah. You know, people's experience about life dictates the way we see things. You know, someone might see this book and think of maybe the first book they read as a child. Our life experiences sort of dictates the way we see and experience or view things. So it's interesting to see people who, you know, were not there when I made the painting connect with it differently. And it's also interesting to hear their own perspective and compare them to mine.
When we say artist, people have many interpretations or ideas about it, and some people don't even like to be called artist because it's just who you are, basically.
Yeah.
In your own words, how would you describe your relationship to being called an artist, let's say, or what have been the most, I would say, rewarding aspect of it, or the thing you enjoy the most in doing art, let's say?
Honestly, I truly enjoy being an artist.
Yeah.
And I think the most rewarding part of doing that is that I can do, you know, I wake up in the morning whenever I want to wake up and I'm in the studio for 10, 12 hours, you know, and for me, those are not laborious time. It's the time that I'm enjoying myself doing what I love to do in the studio. So I enjoy being called an artist. In reality, we are all artists. I create with paint. I'm sure I can't speak or write text like some people in that they're creative in their own way with words. So in a way, we are all artists, but we just work with different materials, you know? So yeah, everyone can as well call themselves an artist.
Yeah, definitely. I like this perspective. It's more like encouraging you to allow yourself actually to tap in your gift and what you do well, and then be bold enough to actually do it and show it to the world, basically.
I mean, you're gonna fail, but within that failure, you learn a lot of things. You just consider them, every failure as an experiment. There's something to learn. I mean, I didn't just get to this painting just because I woke up one day, you know. There's a lot of painting that went amiss where the colors were just completely off, you know. But I was able to pick something there and then just combine them with everything that I've learned along the way. So in that way, it's just do.
You talked to me about having grown since you moved to the Netherlands, and now you've got this show, very roots up in the air.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward, and what are you looking, for your next chapter, let's say?
I take life one day at a time. So for me, I'm looking forward to getting back in the studio. I'm looking forward to experimenting. So for me, it's time to get back to experience life, and from there learn something that would inform my painting continually.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eniwaye.
Thank you for having me.
Amamponda sebenze mobeni athamgcine elibangise esikoleni sicela usixolele thina bandla ngebhathi simthole ngasaphila esikhotheni omalusi bebelele emahlelweni omalume bebehleke emagcekeni ayasolibona bandla kuzole ngimgexo yomlilo emqaleni